Well, very good.
Very good. I just want to say that you're listening to Second Sight Radio on the D.T.M. Wicked Radio Network. Our guest tonight, Mr. Rich Southall. Rich, please tell our listeners about your books, where they can get them, and find out more about you.
Wow. Well, you can get my 3 books. It's How to Be a Ghost Hunter, Haunted Route 66, and Haunted Plantations of the South. And you can find those on Amazon.com. You can find those at many major bookstores. We've got Books A Million and so on and so forth. And you can actually go to our website, Llewellyn.com. Llewellyn Worldwide is the publisher of the books. Now, there, what you can do is find a brief biography of me and a list of other shows that I have recently done or plan on doing. There's also a few blogs and articles that I've placed on the website. Now, if somebody wanted to look me up on Facebook, you could search for Richard H. Southall on Facebook. Or if somebody wanted to email me directly, I can be reached at hauntedplantations@gmail.com.
Wonderful. And I just want to say a great debt and a great thanks to my friend Kat Sanborn at Llewellyn, because Llewellyn, every time we have one of their authors on, Chris, I didn't tell you this, I just found out about it yesterday, they actually promote the show on the Llewellyn website. So thank you very much to Kat and to Llewellyn for promoting our shows and for providing us with quality guests. And authors like Rich Southall, thank you very much. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the show that we say we have a copy of Rich Southall's Haunted Plantations of the South that one lucky listener is going to win. And all you have to do is this. This is so simple. Send an email to contest@secondsightradio.com. I'll repeat that, contest@secondsightradio.com. In the subject line, put the word plantation. Send the email in. We'll pick one lucky winner. We'll announce the winner next week. If you've won a book from us in the last 6 months, you're not eligible. So it has to be a new person. Every 6 months, you can renew your opportunity to win. One copy, Haunted Plantations of the South, is a wonderful book by Rich Southall. You get it by sending an email to contest@secondsightradio.com. Contest@secondsightradio.com. In the subject line, put the word plantation. Christopher.
All right, Christopher. I'm not used to people calling me Christopher. I'll let that slip, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, how many plantations are there in the United States?
Well, that's a very subjective answer, because usually, according to the National Register of Historic Places, there's a definition of what a plantation actually is. Now, that being said, the definition would be that to be considered a plantation, there has to be at least 600 acres and to have had at least 20 slaves working those acres. So that, based on that, there was between 800 and 1,000 plantations.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people think that a plantation is tens of thousands of acres. It's not necessarily the case. Usually it was a large stretch of acreage, like I said, at least 600 acres, and it turns out that they would primarily grow 1 or 2 crops. Now, it wasn't uncommon for a plantation owner to have more than one plantation. We would have one that would grow primarily indigo on one plantation. They would grow tobacco on another one. They could, especially in the South, grow peanuts or cotton. Each one would have its own particular focus. So, according to the National Register of Historic Places, between up to 1,000.
That's quite a few. And how many are currently accessible to the public, such as parks, bed and breakfast, and the like?
Oh, man, there's probably a good portion of those. I wouldn't be able to even put a number to that, but, again, they're usually divided into different categories. One, a large number of them actually are open to the public, either as museums or state parks. Now, in some cases, what they would do is, especially in regards to the state park, the people putting it together, they would get older buildings from other plantations, move them several hundred miles to be placed on one piece of property in order to save the building. So we've got that. So we've got the we've got the museums, we've got the state parks, we've got the bed and breakfasts, and in some cases, we've got private residences. Now, again, I can't give you a specific answer to that, considering that, like I said, there's close to 1,000 plantations, but some of them are abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't give you a direct answer, but if you do some research, you can see if there's any plantations in your area that you could visit or, very interestingly enough, stay at.
Yeah. Now, roughly what percentage, I know you can't give numbers specifically, what percentage of these plantations have some form of haunting taking place?
Well, if I would have to say, based on what I was doing research with, I would have to say probably a quarter of them, between 15 and 25%.
Wow.
Well, considering, I mean, again, there are very strong emotional connections to these plantations.
Absolutely.
We would have plantation owners who, in some cases, literally died for their property.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have slaves who treated horribly,
mm-hmm.
in most cases, by the plantation owners. You've got the Civil War soldiers, and in some cases, the battles actually took place on the front lawns of these mansions.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Of these plantations.
And what type of haunting is most often encountered there?
Well, I would honestly say probably recordings. I think in some cases we have residual spirits, but, in some cases we actually have the spirits, but in most cases I would say they're, of the types, I'd say probably soldiers or slaves. That would be my guess, or at least based on what research I've done.
All right. Okay, but you want me to take the next one?
Yes, 17, right?
17. Do you have a favorite story in haunted plantations?
Oh, yeah.
I love the stories.
Oh, and that's what it's about. I do the history so that we can get a better appreciation of the hauntings. There's a place called the Thomas Rose House outside of Charleston, South Carolina. This gives you an idea of the personalities of the hauntings. I mean, it is just great. Now, there was a fellow by the name of Thomas Rose that built a 2.5-story Georgian plantation mansion up to 1740. Now, in the early 1800s, there was a man from Rhode Island. His name was Dr. Joseph Brown. What he did was he came from Rhode Island down to South Carolina, loved the area so much, he decided to move down there and set up shop. So he moved down there, bought the Thomas Rose House, and became a very successful doctor in the area, became a very pronounced citizen in the area, became part of the upper echelon, if you will. Well, he would often go to local theaters, local, social events. One day, after he was seeing a performance of the play, he ended up critiquing the acting ability or lack thereof of an actress in the play. Now, it was just a bunch of guys getting together and just talking. So he was surprised when one of his colleagues, if you will, got very upset and challenged him to a duel. Now, not being a transplant, not being an actual Southerner, he didn't understand the severity of being challenged to a duel. He thought, okay, sure, I'll go. And it turns out he thought about it during the night, and he thought, it's a stupid idea. I'm not going to go into a duel with one of my friends over the acting ability of a woman I've never met and likely will never meet again. So the duel was to take place on the front lawn in front of his house, in front of the Thomas Rose House. Now, he wanted to forfeit the entire duel. The two of them just have something to drink afterwards and just laugh it off. So what he did, he fired his gun into the air, and not thinking that his opponent would go and fire back. He just thought he wouldn't fire on an unarmed man. So his opponent came to him, and it turns out that Dr. Brown ended up holding out his hand to shake his opponent's hand, and the opponent shot him point blank in the knee.
Whoa!
Oh, yeah. So Dr. Brown ended up falling to the ground in agony. His opponent ended up reloading and shot out the other knee.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even sue him.
No.
He didn't have a leg to stand on.
Oh. But anyway, one of Dr. Brown's servants, took him into his room, to his bedroom, where he died in agony about a week or two later. Now, since that time, there have been numerous sightings of a man that has been seen standing in front of where the mansion is, the sound of a gunshot going off, and you see the man collapsing to the ground and disappearing. There have also been sounds of a man appearing to be in agony in the room where Dr. Brown had been taken to and ultimately died. See, now if I didn't put the history of the story, into the book, and I just told a story about a man that falls to the ground and disappears, there wouldn't be, I wouldn't say the romance of it, there wouldn't be the depth of the story.
Absolutely. So, no, the history is the background. It's absolutely true.
It is. And I just think that to me just shows the personality or the mindset of the people back in the day.
That's beautiful. It's a great story. Mm-hmm. Chris, let me talk about this one first. One of the stories that I found the most compelling in the book was about, and I don't know how to pronounce this properly, but I'm going to say Shreeton. Is that correct? The Shreeton Point Plantation in Sunset, Louisiana?
Cretan Point.
Cretan Point. Please share about this. This is a great story.
I like it. And it turns out that Cretan Point, let me make sure I've got all of the information together on this. Oh, bear with me. I ended up putting it all together. It was out of, you'll have to remind me. Forgive me for that.
I'll tell you right now, it's Sunset, Louisiana.
Yes, that's it. Why? Cretan Point. I had it together, and I swear I think maybe a ghost picked up my notes.
There you go.
Man. Okay. Bear with me just 1 second.
Not a problem at all.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Oh, and Sunset.
It's the story of Hippolyte Cretan.
Oh, yes, Hippolyte Cretan. I'll go ahead and I've done so much research on this, so I can just tell it without actually even looking at my notes.
Hippolyte and his lovely Felicity.
Oh, yes. It turns out that Hippolyte Cretan, what he did was he owned a plantation in the early 1800s in Sunset, Louisiana. The interesting thing about that was he was an opportunist. He was very secretive about how much money he made. He wouldn't even tell how much money he made to his spouse or any of his colleagues. And there were often times that he was seen walking with one of his servants at different locations throughout the property with a shovel. Now, a lot of people think that what he did was he collected his money, he hid it at different locations so that nobody could rob him and so on and so forth. But in addition to being a plantation owner, how can I phrase it? He was very smuggler-friendly. Let's just put it that way. He often let smugglers, people that would transport all kinds of things from out of the country. He would let them stay there. And you ever hear of John Lafayette?
Oh yeah, he was pirate friendly. This guy,
very pirate friendly. Now he made a great deal of money, and by doing so, he got to make quite a few friends that were somewhat shady. Now, eventually, he would let John Lafayette stay there while use it as a base of operations, while Pirate ended up going to different plantations in the area. So he made a great deal of money with that. But it turns out that one of the items that he received was a blanket that I believe had yellow fever on it, and it killed him. He
Wow.
ended up dying from that. Now,